Repeat after me. Money is easy. Wealth is possible for me. Yep, I'm Dr. Latifat. I'm the host of the Money Fit MD show. This is where we talk about all things money and mindset and how you can learn how to do money and wealth your way. Subscribe, watch, learn, take action. You've got this.
All right, guys. So I'm already clapping and we haven't even started. So if you're like, this is my first time listening to her and she's clapping, she crazy. First of all, welcome. I am a little crazy. I'm Dr. Latifat. I am the host of the Money Fit MD podcast and the creator of the Money Fit MD Money School for Women Physicians. And we are in the middle of this amazing series that I am doing in response to the things that are happening or maybe happening in the economy. And the entire goal of this is for me to literally bring in some of my favorite people together to come share what they are doing in their lives and any advice that they can have in order for us to be able to equip ourselves. And the main reason for that is, I have this huge, I just know that the next 3 years are going to be important when it comes to our finances. And as women, where we want to close some of the gaps that currently exist in money as women of color, it is so important for us to make sure that whatever it is the economy is doing the next 3 to 5 years, we do not hide. We be a part of that. So that is why I'm doing this. And I want you to make sure you listen, you take notes, you take action. And share this. If you haven't shared this yet, I want you to go ahead and share it with, on your Facebook, Instagram, tag me. I want us to get this literally to the ends of the earth. That's literally what we're doing here. So, but before I go even further, I want to introduce you to my friend and financial educator. This is Dr. Dewan. Welcome to our platform.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I'm very
Yes,
excited
yes,
to be here.
yes. Thank you for being here. I know that you're busy with life and family and joy and all this fun stuff. But so this is your first time on my platform. So why don't you just introduce yourself to people about why I think you're awesome and why I believe that they should listen to you? Because I do believe that you have a lot of knowledge to share with the world. So tell us who you are.
Yeah, sure. So I'm Dr. Dewan Ferhana. I run the platform Dr. Finances, where I make finances very easy to understand for busy practicing physicians. I make it very fun and visual. Previously, after I graduated medical school, I actually did something a little different and interesting. I went into the tech industry and I served as the founder and CEO of Better Nest. Since then, I reached financial independence. It was, I think, in 2020. And I've been educating people on personal finance because I absolutely love it. I learned about it, reach financial independence primarily through the stock market, index funds, and so on. However, I'm dipping into real estate now. And I do a lot of other interesting stuff as a venture fellow for like venture capital, as well as a lot of other cool stuff in tech. And I also do consulting for physicians that are transitioning from healthcare into healthcare tech. So from clinical medicine into healthcare tech. So yeah.
That's awesome. We've been trying to get you on the podcast. Our schedules haven't really merged, but we need to
Mhm.
get you on for like a full on. Let's talk
Sure.
about the world of tech. And I think it's funny that you think it's cool. And I'm like, that stuff isn't cool to me. My husband's IT. I think you know that it's network
Yeah.
engineering. And it took me like
Mhm.
forever to even remember and know what he does. And
Mhm.
yeah, I'm like, talk to me like a preschooler, not even like a third grader. But
No, you got
tell
yeah.
us, what are
Mhm.
some of the things that you are doing personally? And,
Mhm.
the mindset that I have my interviewers take is if I was your sister or if the audience was your sister, what would you
Mhm.
want your sister to do in order to be well during this financial times that we're in?
Yeah, that's a great question for me, especially because I have three other sisters and a younger brother. I know Latifa, you have four sisters as well. I think three sisters. So I am always giving my siblings advice, so it's perfect. So for the recession, there's a lot of talk about whether the recession is coming or not coming. It's here, it's not here. Here is like my sort of top 5 to 6 things that I would recommend that I would tell my own siblings that I'm also applying to my own life. So the first thing is my general advice is, stick to your financial plan. And a financial plan is basically when you sit down and you make an entire plan for the long term. And the reason why, more than other times, why sticking to the financial plan is so important is because when we're making this plan, usually there's not a recession going on in the background, right? So we're thinking calmly, collectively, we're thinking for the long term. And that's why during times of recession and market dips, it's so, so important that we go back and understand where we're coming from and what our plans were and why we should stick to them. Because if we act on our emotions, then it's not really wise, because we might be making some impulse moves that we may regret later. Another thing is definitely the emergency fund. Everyone talks about this. Usually I recommend 3 to 6 months of an emergency fund, but with the impending recession coming on and things like that, I would say 6 months to a year. More likely if you're in an industry where you may be, where you have a likely possibility of losing a job or career, things like that during a recession, it's probably a good idea to save an emergency fund for even possibly for a year. So basically it gives you a buffer to find another job, to kind of recover, to help the market go back up a little bit. From my personal experience, if you're in an industry where the job security is very, very high, like whether you're a police officer or a doctor, or even if you are a computer engineer in tech, it's very stable, give or take. Though I know in medicine, it's unknown now. But in general, if you feel that it's stable or you're in a specialty in medicine, then, as long as you have 6 months or whatever. My husband and I, we did an emergency fund for we'd held for the 3 to 6 months for many, many, many years, but we never actually ended up using our emergency fund, because what happens is if you have a job that's pretty stable, you can always find another job. And the other thing is you have all these insurances set up to handle any catastrophic events, right? So anything that's catastrophic, you have to absolutely make sure that you have insurances for that. So disability insurance, term life insurance, health insurance, of course, car insurance, umbrella insurance. So anything catastrophic should be covered by an insurance, because it's not possible to cover with an emergency fund. So that's definitely tip number 2. The other thing is I recommend just continue investing. I tell my siblings this, that's what we're doing. Especially if you're young and you have a long horizon into the retirement, you want to make sure that you have a bunch of these dips, right? Like we're expecting the market to go down. We're expecting the recessions to happen. The good thing about the market is that it always goes up and it always recovers. And so that's sort of where you get all of the benefits of the market. So even though it kind of like mentally, emotionally feels really bad, you want that because you want your money in when the market is low, so that when it goes up, you want your money to get all those dividends and returns and things like that. And so that's why we're not planning on changing anything to our portfolio because we're not retiring anytime soon. If you are retiring anytime soon within the next 5 years or so, this is probably a good time to talk to a fiduciary fee-only financial advisor and see if you should allocate more of your portfolio to like a stronger bond, like a higher bond allocation. Though a lot of advisors will say you should still have a 70 to 80% stock portfolio, because you still want that aggressive growth when the market goes back up. So that's something that you may want to consider. So this is if you're going to retire within the next 5 years. But if you're not, then just stick to your plan and just continue investing. If you look at the math and the statistics on people that manage to invest at every down instead of the up, versus someone who just DCA'd, which is dollar cost averaging, where you're putting in the same amount every month, honestly, the difference is not significant. It's very small. So you don't have to worry about timing the market. You just DCA and you will continue getting all of the returns of the market. Now, one interesting thing that you can do, especially if you are young, is you can consider purchasing cash flowing real estate. When the market is down, this is when you can use that cash flowing real estate to kind of, create that buffer where instead of taking that cash flow and reinvesting it in another property or the stock market, you can use it as a buffer to last you that 1 or 2 years for the market to go back up. So that's one other option. And if you also want to do real estate syndications, that might be another option. So you don't even touch your stock portfolio, let the market do its thing. You're right there and ready when the market goes back up to earn your gains, but you use your real estate as sort of that buffer. Again, not absolutely necessary, but it might be one of the options. And then the other two, like sort of things like on the other side, is make sure that you're using a budget tracking app like Mint or Copilot. That way you can see like if there's a recession coming or a recession's happening, how you can also cut down. So maybe you want to cut down on eating a bit more, subscriptions, things that we're not actually using, that, you might enjoy it now, but if there's a recession, you may want to cut down on it. And then the last is making sure that your resume is up to date, stay in touch with your network, that if there is something happening, if there's a job prospect, something that you may be delaying. I know all of us, we never update our resume, at least I don't. It's like have to go back. So it might be something that you want to kind of keep on, on top of, that if there is a recession or if you are laid off or if you need a new job, you're right there and ready to go after a new job or a new career and things like that.
I love it. I love it. Love, love, love. That's a lot of great, useful information. And it's funny, I'm smiling because, we've talked on and offline many other times. And it's interesting now hearing you talk about real estate. I'm like, yeah, see, estate is something for everybody, real estate, right? And but I do agree with you. And what I like when craziness is happening, there's going to be a lot of conversations happening. That is not the time for us to make changes. We don't want you to make emotional decisions based on fear and all that stuff, right? And that is why I'm doing this even early in this course that we're going to have, because I want every single person to have a plan. I want every single person to have a plan. And it's interesting. Some of us have talked about the fact that the pandemic has been a little bit of a trial run for what a recession could look like. I mean, yes, the stock market was doing well, but job security was a thing that was, scary for many people. People lost their jobs because people had to reel it in and teach kids from home and stuff like that was happening. So I feel like we've had a minor training ground for it. And if you think about how you have done the pandemic, like how did you invest in the middle of the pandemic? Were you investing automatically? Were you looking at where your money was going? Those sort of things. It's the same foundation. The foundation of money is the foundation of money no matter what. Yes, you may have to make sure you're more tethered emotionally to make sure that you are not going based on what people are saying, but you're strong, you're staying connected with communities that are going to foster your growth, mindset, joy. Don't freak out. Remind you that you're not insane, that people I remember when I was growing up, there was actually one time people were scared that it was the end of the world and people were selling everything that they had, right? And it's like, people were doing that, right? People were selling everything they had. It's the end of the world. I'm like, wait a minute. If you sell, what are you going to take the money to it? Why are you selling? You think you're going to tie the money your bum or something, right? But the key is we want you to be prepped. We don't want you to panic. So if there is anything that you've heard today that you're like, I don't know what that is, reach out and ask for help. Like there is a lot of help. And the reason why I'm doing this is for you to be prepared, right? I tell people that in the money school, I have this, I call the foundation of money, where what does the terminologies mean? What is dollar cost average and the mindset, the action, the strategy, and creating the community, because you should not have to do money alone. And depending on what family or the people you have surrounding you, they may be looking like you were do you have two heads? You're not selling everything you have. You're not dumping everything you have, right? So the key is we want you to be well. And part of that is having a plan now, not in the middle, having a plan now. There are times when you may want to have some fun in the middle, right? You look at your spending, you're like, okay, maybe I need to just remove all the subscription, and you can buy more stuff that you had no plans of buying. Those are fun, but you can keep the main thing as the main thing. Don't panic, plan. Does that sound about what you're talking about?
Yeah, and that's what I love the series that you're doing now, because this is a great time to create that financial plan, because, in almost anything in life, I don't know about you, Latifah, but even let's say if I'm choosing a school for my kids, or even if I'm choosing a restaurant, when I'm in that mental state and I create it and I figure out okay, this is the school I'm going to send my kids, I've evaluated everything. I'm in that mental state. I'm in the zone. I've looked at everything. Now, 2 weeks later, I don't even know why I chose this school. And, I might see another school and I'd be like, wait a minute, that looks really good. Why did I consider that? And sometimes I still do that. And then I remember, I said, no, I know you evaluated everything, Dewan. I know you went through all of it. So when we're in the zone, when we're in that state where we have clarity and we're making plans for the future, that is the best time and best way to make the plan. And if you haven't done a financial plan yet, this is a really good time before all the chaos starts. But it is so true. You're going to see so much noise. And one of the biggest success about stock market, index fund investing, and so on, is you have to be able to ignore the noise. It literally is at least 30 to 50% of the success, because you have to be able to ignore the noise. Because if you look at the stock market statistically, you can just literally go on Wikipedia and you can see there have been huge ups and downs and dips and stuff, but the market always recovers and always goes up. And if you listen to all the noise and you sell and everything, this is where you lose out, and you're going to lose a lot of the gains that you're supposed to get. So I totally agree with you. I think this is a great time to create that financial plan.
It's I love analogies. So it's if you're in a committed relationship to this amazing, awesome dude, and your friends are telling you about the hot dudes down the street. You're like, I already got something great. Sure, for someone else, maybe, but I'm good. Right? It's oh my goodness, seriously, they're so hot. I'm sure they are. I'm glad they are. And we're good. And we're good. But real
Right.
quickly, since you brought it up a couple of times, and I know that we have a very diverse audience at different stages in their journey, can you spend 2 minutes talking about index funds real quickly? Literally 2 minutes.
Yeah, sure.
No
So
pressure.
index funds are basically you follow the index and it's basically a basket of funds with all of the top 500 companies. So things like S&P 500. And basically it's low cost, low load index funds where you're following the market index and you just buy a fund like VTSAX, something like that on Vanguard, and you invest it and you hold for the long term. And it's the cheapest, best way and the sort of the, in my opinion, the best kept secret in the world, the best way to build a wealth without doing any additional work. Everything else requires additional work. With index funds, it's just literally 5 clicks of a button. You set it and you forget it basically, and you sleep, you take a shower, you see your kids, and you just see your portfolio grow and grow over time. Yeah, so that's what basically it's sort of the best way to get invested with the stock market.
Absolutely. And I'm a huge fan of that too. And I cannot tell how many people that I've talked with and coached about the fact that people think that investment is going to be complicated.
Right.
And I'm
But
like, it doesn't have to be. It could be. You could do it. You could go pick your individual stocks yourself. When I talk about the downturn plan, people are like, so what's the best stock to buy? I'm like, I'm still buying index funds that is automated and I'm not even bothering myself about it because I'd rather do the other things. I'd rather have fun with my kids. I'd rather go to the beach. I'd rather spend time talking about real estate. I'd rather teach women physicians how, like, those juice me up without me having to think about what a single company is doing based on the attitude or whatever their CEO posts on Twitter or Instagram or whatever the heck, right? So index fund, it can literally be as simple as that. It's diversified. It's multiple companies, hundreds of companies together. And you can do that for the country. You can do that for the world. You can do that with things that are more socially in line with what your goals are. And so it doesn't have to be complicated. Like literally investing in the stock market could be simpler than one patient encounter that you have.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can
Absolutely.
be.
And
So.
you know, as they say, like look in the mirror and look back. And if you don't see Warren Buffett in front of you, stick to index funds because most financial advisors are not able to outperform the index funds, outperform the market or time the market, even though they will claim that they can, and many try every day. But if you want to create at least 80 to 90% of the wealth, just stick to the, low cost index funds and it'll get you to all the financial goals that you want to reach.
Fantastic. And again, we can keep the main thing, and add on things to it. Like I do index fund and then I do real estate on top of it. I do index fund. We do a little fun with crypto. It's not a big part of our portfolio at all, but we do like a dollar cost average equivalent with crypto. Nothing fancy, nothing. I'm choosing not to really learn much about it. So my husband does that and it's small, it's simple, it's almost automated, right? And then we do real estate, whether that's active or passive or rates, like there is, but figure out what that platform, what that basic compounding, making money in your sleep is going to look like. And then now you can add more stuff to it in seasons where you're able to do that.
Yeah, the real estate basically where it comes in is that with the index fund, so you can of course invest and you don't have to reach a financial independence number, right? I think you were posting about that, Latifa. Most people
I've been screaming about that.
Yeah. So most people basically what they do is they do the number, your annual expenses times 25, you have that full amount invested in the index funds and basically you're financially independent. However, you don't need that absolute, in financial independent number. You can have half of it and go part-time. You can do 75% of it and go 3/4 of the time. The other thing is with the index funds, it is true. It does take a long time. It's not a get rich quick scheme or whatever. This is where real estate can come in. With real estate, it's also more dependent on you because it's, especially when you do direct real estate investing, you have to purchase a property, you have to make connections, you have to work with people, and you can basically expedite your financial goals by adding in real estate. So if you don't want to, let's say you have a very high paying job, like this is not an actual number, but I think something like say 400,000 or 500,000 a year, you don't necessarily have to do real estate. You have a very high income. You can invest 50% or 40% of it into the index funds and you're good. But let's say you're on the lower end of the earnings, trying to reach that 1.5 million net worth can take a very long time. But if you add some cash flowing real estate, and now this real estate is generating 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 for you per month, that totally moves up your financial independence number much quicker. You can go part-time quicker and so on. And so that's where it can add this really amazing part to your portfolio and really help you expedite and reach all of your financial goals that you want.
Fantastic. This has been so fun. One, I get to hang out with you and we get to hang out with people.
Yeah.
No, thank you so much for taking the time to share with our audience, guys. Again, creating a plan now. Finding that community where you're going to be grounded. That's going to be important because we need to fool your brain. We need to make sure you're okay. We need to make sure you're well and joyful during all of this. And remember that it's okay to modify your plan, but just start with something, let it be automated so that it's not as variable with the emotions of everyday living that we go through as humans. And then you get to have all the fun in the world and stay well. This has been so fun. Thank you so much for coming to hang out with my people.
Sure. It was so much fun for me as well.
Fantastic. And for those that are listening, I'm going to be including a link in here, but for those that are listening and want to find you, what is the best way they can find you?
Sure. So I'm very active on Instagram at Dr_finances. I have my course at drfinances.thinkific.com. And you can find me on LinkedIn as well. And I have my blog as well.
You're like, oh, I have one more thing.
Yeah, there's so many platforms we have to be part of, right? But mainly on Instagram, I'm most proactive there. And, take a look. I spend a lot of time doing my visual graphs and stuff to make it very easy to understand. I add a lot of medicine into it too, so it's a little bit fun. I remember I did this cardiology post with the heart and how that kind of relates to the stock market. And I had a cardiologist tell me, like, I'm a board certified cardiologist and I approve. That was like so validating and fun, like having someone who's, specialized in that field. I guess I have to find a GI one.
Well, you know what? I have a lot of GI jokes. So my people in my program are like, Latifat, you talk about poop. I'm like, yeah, it makes sense, right? They're like, yeah, it does actually. Yeah. So the bottom line is money doesn't have to be complicated. Money can be worked into our everyday language. Right. And the goal is for us to be well. And that's why we're all out on the streets educating. So guys, thank you so much for listening. If you haven't left us a review yet, what the hell are you doing with your life? Like literally go to your podcast platform, scroll down. You don't even have to pause, scroll down and you can give us like 5-star review that I love to see. If you're watching video, go to any podcast platform you listen to. Number one, subscribe and, follow us so that you don't miss any of all this amazing interviews that I'm doing. And also make sure you leave us a review because that is how other women physicians find us. And again, share. We want every human to have this information and we don't want you to eat alone. We want you to enjoy the richness of eating with all of us, being well. We're sharing this information so that you can tag the next woman physician and tag the next woman physician. That is how we help each other be well. So thanks guys for listening and always a pleasure being in your ears. Have a good rest of the day, guys.